Hello students of class 9. I hope you are following this climate chapter well. We are also having our online classes when I am trying to explain you each and every points. Now children, I have already explained the climatic controls and I have also explained a part of the factors affecting India's climate. So I have explained the impact of latitude on India's climate and also the impact of altitude. I have also explained some small points related to pressure and winds. Now today children, I will pick up the first topic of pressure and winds, that is pressure and surface winds. In my previous video children, I had already said that there are some winds which blow at the lower level of the atmosphere and they are known as surface winds, whereas there are some winds which blow at the upper part of the troposphere or at a greater height and they are known as upper air circulation. So surface winds blows close to the earth's surface and the upper air circulation blows at a higher altitude in the higher layer of troposphere. So children, this movement of winds are again controlled by the pressure system. Winds will always blow from the high pressure areas towards the low pressure areas. In the world children, there are some permanent pressure and wind belts. So the permanent pressure belts are created due to different reasons. So we will study today this permanent pressure belts and the related wind belts. When I was doing this chapter of climate, in my second or third video, I had already discussed that there are three types of winds. The permanent winds blow in a particular direction throughout the year. The seasonal winds blow during a particular season. And the local winds will blow in a certain locality. Whenever or whatever time they are blowing, they are totally directed by the pressure system. So today we will draw a diagram. The diagram is not given in your book children. You will please take down the diagram because whatever we will study further in this climate chapter, it will be according to the diagram. So draw the diagram and you pin it up in your chapter so that when you study the chapter you can easily refer to the diagram and study. So first let us draw the world permanent pressure belts. Okay, so take down the diagram in your notebook. So children, today we will study world pressure belts and planetary wind system. You can see I have already written it, world pressure belts and planetary wind system. So they are permanent pressure and wind belts. So I will come closer to the diagram so that you can see it better. So world pressure belts and planetary wind system. So here children, in the beginning first you draw the earth and then we have this equator in the middle. So this equator is there. Now on both the side of the equator we have the hemispheres, the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So to the north of this equator, 5 degree north and 5 degree south, I have drawn these lines, these latitudes. So you will draw one latitude at 5 degree north, the other one is at 5 degree south. And in between we will write equatorial belt of low pressure. Now children, this belt is having low pressure throughout the year. Now I had also said that this previously, that when there is more heating, the hot air rises up, and this hot air is lighter, and this belt has lesser air, and so pressure is low. Equatorial belt of low pressure. The other term that is also used here is doldrums. DULDRUMS. Doldrums. Let me write it here. The other term for this is doldrum. DOLDRUMS. Doldrums. It is also known as doldrums because calm conditions prevail here. Now the next line that we will draw is at 30 degree north and 35 degree north. So we will draw the latitude of 30 degree in the northern hemisphere at 30 degree north, and the latitude of 35 degree, which is 35 degree north latitude, and in between we will write subtropical belt of high pressure. So north of equator we have subtropical belt of high pressure at 30 degree and 35 degree north. In between 30 degree and 35 degree north we have subtropical belt of high pressure. Similarly, in the southern hemisphere also you can see that I have written 30 degrees south and 35 degrees south. In the southern hemisphere also we are having subtropical belt of high pressure. So on both the sides of the equator we have high pressure belts. Low pressure at the equator. And why I have written subtropical? Because north of Tropic of Cancer or south of Tropic of Capricorn, it is totally the subtropical belt. So this subtropical belt of high pressure extend on both the sides of the equator, and this happens because there is more air concentrated in this zone. The hot air that rises from the equatorial zone is lighter, but this hot air settles down in both the subtropical belts. So there is more air in this zone, in this subtropical belt and this subtropical belt. Now this more air creates higher pressure. So subtropical belt of high pressure extend on both the sides, mainly because comparatively the temperatures are lower, and the hot air that rises from the equatorial zone, it settles in this subtropical high pressure belt. Now comes the subpolar low pressure belt. No doubt this area is cooler than this zone from the tropical zone, but still here there is belt of low pressure because some warmer air from the tropical subtropical belt rises up, and when they rise up they also pull up some of the colder air that extends in this zone. So there is lesser air and it creates lower pressure. I am again repeating, though this subpolar belt is having lower temperature, but here the pressure is low because some of the warmer air from the subtropical belt moves up, and when they move up they also pull up some of the colder air along with them from this zone, and so there is lesser air in this belt, and so there is lower pressure. The same condition applies for this subpolar lower pressure zone in the southern hemisphere. And of course, the northernmost point, that is the North Pole, and the southernmost pole, that is the South Pole, both of them are very, very cold, and cold dense air that has settled here has led to the formation of high pressure, polar high. We call it polar high near close to 90° north, and polar high similarly at 90° south. So both this zone is having high pressure. I am again repeating why such kind of pressure conditions have occurred. So equatorial belt is having low pressure because it gets the direct rays of the sun, and hot air rises up due to heating. It is lighter, it rises up, and there is less air, so there is low pressure. Subtropical belts are having comparatively cooler temperatures than the equatorial zone, and so the cooler temperature also leads to cooling of the air, and the hot air that rises from the equatorial zone, it settles in the subtropical belt, and this cooler air increases the volume of air, and so there is more air leading to high pressure in both the zones. Then we come to this subpolar low pressure belt. Here the pressure is low because some of the air from this subtropical belt, which is comparatively warmer, they move up, they rise up, and when they rise up, they also pull along with them some of the air of subpolar belt, and so there is lesser air, and so there is low pressure. And the polar highs are having continuously cold temperatures, very freezing temperatures, so the cold dense air creates a high pressure there, and so it is known as polar high. So I have told you about the pressure belts. Now let us draw the wind system. These are the permanent wind system, and they are known as planetary wind system. These wind systems are very important because they are the ones who are the main controller of climate of our country and also of the world. So let us draw the wind system in the earth. Now children, you can see that I have drawn lots of arrows on the diagram. Now this is the arrows of the winds that are blowing in this zone. You will maintain the direction of the arrows. You will draw in the same direction as I have drawn. That is, you will draw it at an angle. You will not draw the arrow straight. Now here in this zone, children, you can find that I have drawn the arrow little bit slanting, and the pointing is towards the equator. Okay, so here north of equator you will write north east trade. The direction of arrow will be towards the equator at a certain angle. The wind is blowing from the northeast, and so it is northeast trades. Similarly, south of equator, these winds are again drawn at an angle. You can see that I have drawn it at an angle. The direction is from southeast, and so I have written it as southeast trades. In the northern hemisphere, it is coming from the northeast, so the name is northeast trades. In the southern hemisphere, just south of equator, it is coming from the southeast direction, and so it is southeast trades. Then again I will move to the northern hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere, children, again from subtropical belt of high pressure, it is moving at a little bit of angle towards the subpolar belt of low pressure. So here you must write southwesterlies. The name is westerlies. West, E-R-L-I-E-S. It is blowing from the southern part, so southwesterlies. Okay, from the subtropical high pressure belt, this wind is blowing towards the subpolar low pressure belt. So southwesterlies. And then in the northern part from polar high, it is blowing towards the subpolar belt of low pressure. So here the direction you can see, it is facing the southwesterlies. So in this way, again at a certain angle, and the name will be polar easterlies. Okay, the name is polar easterlies. It is blowing from the polar high towards the subpolar belt of low pressure. It is moving at a certain angle. Similarly, children, you will find that in the southern hemisphere, I have already done southeast trade. In the southern hemisphere, just south of subtropical high pressure belt, I have drawn arrows at a certain angle with a little bit of angle. These arrows are moving towards the subpolar low pressure belt. They are coming from the north. They are blowing from the north. And it is named as northwesterlies. In the northern hemisphere, you had southwesterlies. Now children, coming to the southernmost zone, that is the zone between subpolar low pressure belt and polar high. You can see here again the arrow is drawn from the polar high towards the subpolar low pressure belt. In the northern hemisphere also, we had drawn it from polar high towards subpolar low pressure belt. Here also from polar high towards the subpolar low pressure belts. The winds are again blowing at an angle. Here also they are known as polar easterlies. See, there is slight angle. I have not drawn the arrows straight. Now children, here I would like to refer that in my previous video I had told you about the Coriolis force. The Coriolis force develops due to Earth's rotation. So anything that is moving within the Earth does not blow straight. It will make an angle, and that is the angle of deflection. So you find these winds I have drawn at an angle. Now coming to the naming of the winds, children, here you see it is northeast. So if I draw a north line here, children, the winds are blowing in this direction. So if this is north and this is east, the winds which are blowing in this direction, so the word north is there. Here in case of southeast trades, children, the wind is blowing in this direction. So this is north, this is south. The wind is blowing in this direction, that is in southeast direction. So the name is southeast trades. Now why this trade word is used? Because here the winds are very calm. They are not very violent. They are calm winds which help the traders to move. So the word northeast trades and southeast trade. Mind it, children, northeast states the direction. It is coming from northeast, so the name northeast has been used. It is blowing from southeast, so the word southeast trade has been used. Again here it is blowing from south, so the name southwesterlies. The direction, if I show you, children, by drawing, the direction of the wind is in this way. So if it is north, it is south, this is west, and this is east. The wind is blowing in this direction, so the direction is from southwest, so the name has been given as southwesterlies. Similarly, in case of polar easterlies, the wind is blowing in this direction, that is, it is lying between north and east. So, east is important. So, polar easterlies, or you can also call it as north polar easterlies. East and north, both of them are there. In the southern hemisphere, children, if you see, I have written northwesterlies. Again here, if I draw a north line, children, you will find this is east, this is west, this is south. The wind is coming, blowing from this direction. This is north. So north and west, both of them are there. So the term northwesterlies. And again for polars here, it is coming from the east, and here it is blowing from the south, like it is blowing in this way. You can call it as south polar easterlies, or you can simply write it as polar easterlies. This deflection is there due to the Earth's rotation. Maximum deflection is there at the poles. In the polar zone, the winds blow at a great angle, and in the equatorial belt, the deflection is minimum. And children, another very important thing, the westerly winds are very, very strong. In the northern hemisphere, there is more land, so they are not very strong, because over the land they meet with obstruction. But in the southern hemisphere, the water portion is more. In this zone, the water portion is more. So the winds are very strong, and they are known by different names. Like in the 40 degrees south, they are known as roaring 40s. At 50 degrees south, they are known as furious 50s. And at 60 degrees south, they are known as screaming 60s. The winds are very, very violent in the southern hemisphere. So in this way, children, the world pressure and the planetary belts are very important, and they play a very important role in affecting the climate of the entire world. So India is mainly affected by the southeast trade winds. India is also affected by the northeast trade winds, but it is generally lesser. The impact of southeast trade winds is more, and we are also affected by the southwesterlies. So children, today you all take down this diagram and go through the explanation that I have said just now, because this explanation is not there in your book. So go through this video repeatedly and try to understand the diagram. So thank you, children. Have a nice day. Next day again I will continue my chapter with this diagram itself. Thank you, children. Have a nice day.